Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Mayan Speedplay number 27. We left off with the first war of the Coalition. I call it the first war because I kind of assume there will be more. We go ahead and ship one group of soldiers off into Southeast Asia to put out all the fires over there. We also turn on our forts just so it isn't a huge disaster. We're continuing to colonize in North America to get to all the tribes and sending two groups of armies over to Brazil. The general idea is we're going to just try to maintain what we have in Southeast Asia. I think one army and a decent portion of our combat navy will suffice for that. And just generally go over. We also will have rebels. Over here in Brazil, the plan is to just wreck the Brazilian military, hopefully fully occupy Brazil. There are those rebels in Southeast Asia, so we'll go take care of them first. The idea, once again, we will hopefully defeat the Brazilians. They are the war leaders, so as long as we fully occupy them, we will win the war in the long term and at least get, a decent amount out of it. Probably we will target all of the other coalition members, not just Brazil proper. We attack the rebels and win just out loud, which is great. So hopefully we will be able to get all of the territories that we want from, say, the Ottomans or the French, or really just any of the major imperial powers through this war and maybe not destroy Brazil. But we'll see how it all turns out. We also managed to clear out this island, except for the neutral areas where a French army is just kind of sitting and waiting. We also lost a battle, losing one of our mercenary stacks, which is kind of unfortunate. And we're just going to go ahead and pull the rest of our forces over. That one French stack we're going to just attack. I go ahead and bring these two armies together. They'll just merge up, probably not actually combine, but defeat whatever they can. We also need to get our troops out of North Africa and continue the war in Southeast Asia, where we'll hopefully be able to just bring, well, at least some level of victory to the area. Meanwhile, we do win the battle against the Brazilians, which isn't terribly unexpected since we do outnumber them significantly. Great Britain just declared war on us. They are allied to Austria, so hopefully Austria will just not join in. Hopefully they didn't call them. And yeah, so we'll just hope for the best on that. Moving back to the Brazilian front, we are just rushing over to their fortresses, dealing with events just about our estates. And hopefully we'll be able to meet up with that Brazilian army and do a decent amount of damage to it, although, yeah, it looks like we will be able to catch it. And we are fighting pretty successfully. We did win that battle. We're probably not going to be able to chase them down. They still have something like 15,000 manpower, so they're going to come back at least one more time. And now we're just taking back one of our provinces. It looks like we are taking back our Brazilian province as well, so we're going to just keep sieging through Brazil. Sadly, they did build up more forts after we took all their forts from them, which, does make sense, but it's still a little upsetting. We also send our battle navy up to go free our transports in North Africa, and we send our North African army down into the Sub-Saharans. We do win against a small Brazilian force, and I think that battle is going to go very well, or the fight in the Brazilian theater. The British are landing troops. Hopefully we can intercept their navy, although it looks like we can't actually. They'll just go back home. And yeah, generally we are doing decently well. The war is going to be a bit of a long one, kind of a back and forth as well. It looks like we can escape with our transports because everyone kind of brought their navies away. Tunis is having a whole lot of rebels, which are just barely in frame right now. Hopefully the Ottomans will deal with that as they go and just destroy our ally or vassal. And we're also winning in Southeast Asia, sort of, just where our army is. And we can hopefully just bring these troops onto boats and deal with that Brazilian army without actually lowering any of our sieges. So it looks like we'll do that fairly well. Hopefully they don't win, and they just managed to win that. And unfortunately, we dropped right on them, losing a bunch of penalties for crossing and whatnot, so that's unfortunate. We did win the battle, though, and we're back at the fort, so we can hopefully take that fairly soon, since it must not have that much of a garrison at this point. We also just kind of charge up into Khmer. Rebels still going on, doing their thing. We do fight a naval battle and win pretty handedly. So hopefully we'll just go ahead and bring our combat navy back over into Southeast Asia. We need to kind of clean that up, at least somewhat. And we found the Brazilian military once again. We're also now laying siege in Khmer, so hopefully we can bring this whole area more or less into the fold. The Brazilians, we're going to just battle them once more. Their armies are pretty determined to just stay in the fight, which is a little annoying. Although, honestly, we're getting a lot of decent victories from them, and they aren't too much of a threat. We're also fighting another naval battle. I assume that will go well, and it does. We do win that against the Ottomans, it looked like. We're going to continue fighting just wherever we can, make progress wherever we can. North Africa, you'll notice we're not even looking at very much because it's kind of a lost cause. Although it doesn't really need to be a cause that we worry about. That's why it's a vassal, so it won't really affect us too much if bad things happen over there. We also are just doing decently well. We've won that siege. We'll go ahead and just attack. We do get a rebellion down in the south. We do split our forces up now that we've stack wiped the Brazilians, and we're going to just try to siege out their entire countryside and bring this whole Brazilian front to a close in just a few moments. So if that works out, that'll be great. They are raising mercenary forces, so they will have a few scattered troops just about being annoying. Hopefully nothing too serious, though. You'll notice we do have negative war scoring against the British. Hopefully we'll be able to deal with that later on. Right now, though, probably not, as we just have bigger priorities. And the British are kind of a weak and not really significant power anyway at this point. Alright, so we're just carving through Brazil. You may have noticed we lost one battle, but we just brought more and more troops in. We also brought an army down to deal with the rebellion. Khmer is falling even more, and hopefully these rebels will just fall easily. We keep moving across Brazil. They are attacking us in the Peruvian area, so we'll probably have to group our forces up and just charge against those groups. So they are still in existence. They are still being a bit of a problem, but not to that great of an extent. And that's, really the most important thing, is that as long as they're not that much of a problem, we can just keep going through. And they only have 2 armies left, and this army is about to die, and we have forces all over the area. Meanwhile, Khmer is sieging their lands back. We're just going to destroy them as best we can. We do have a force here. We start converting more areas. We're going to rush up and try to destroy that small Brazilian stack. We have destroyed most of Khmer's armies. We're going to just try to hold them back a bit. There are still some Brazilians just around and about, which is a little annoying, but really now that we've taken over the majority of Brazil, and in a moment we'll have their capital just because we are sieging it down, I'm not too worried. Khmer has basically fallen just a few sieges. We have lost the entire island of Borneo to Brunei, which is a little unfortunate, although really not much we could do about it without naval superiority. And you'll notice we're sending our navy around, but not really achieving much. Alright, the Brazilian forces are all destroyed, so we can just bring more troops over into sub-Saharan Africa. I see what kind of war score it would take, and we can't even annex Brazil in this war, so we're probably just going to go after various colonial holdings of the other coalition members. As really, that's probably the most realistic thing we can actually achieve in this war, if we can't achieve the annexation of Brazil and other things as well. The British attack our force. We put a good general in charge, though, and we win that battle. We're going to go chase them down. That was the army that we used against the rebels in South America, by the way. We've just been shipping them across. We do lose a battle against Brazilian rebels, because always there are rebellions when we occupy somewhere. And we do fight this British army. We win against them, but they are still intact. And we're going to just rush on down and hopefully destroy that other Brazilian rebel force, as we want control over their country. We don't want rebels to control it. We also moved some traders around, since we are gaining and losing one of our trade companies' traders, just as enemy navies come and wreck our trade power in the area. And we start splitting up our force, since we did just stack wipe those British troops. We're going to just siege out the entire British North African holdings. We also managed to finish our colony in South Georgia, which is nice, and split up our armies in Khmer. We're going to keep colonizing as best we can. We're not going to go over our limit of 4 colonies, just because, we have to worry about our military and not that. And yeah, so the British should be kicked out of sub-Saharan Africa pretty soon. Khmer should be kicked out of Khmer pretty soon. And eventually we're going to want to siege out some of these islands that we want, say the Ottoman islands of the Aleutians and Alaska, and Hawaii. The Aleutians in Alaska and Hawaii itself. We've gone ahead and destroyed most of the British presence here, so we're just going to combine our armies. A big worry is that since they do have naval superiority in the area, that they might be a bit problematic. We do also try to smash some of these fleets, You'll notice we aren't really using our fleet very much. That's because the enemy fleets are just moving away from us. Unfortunately, these are not transports, those are trade ships, so we do have to build some transports, but I imagine we will have no problem keeping the war going another 300 days for those to build. Meanwhile, forces from Khmer are going to go over to the Moluccas, and hopefully do at least a decent bit of damage to the enemy forces invading and occupying them. We also go ahead and take an admin idea for 25% more mercenaries available, since we were out of potential mercenaries available. And let's try to intercept this army. It looks like we did it very well, and now we're just going to chase them down through the Moluccas and hopefully, end them. Now, if I had planned this better with my navy, we could have cut them off, and that would have been great, although they do occupy both sides of any of the straits, so it wouldn't really have been possible anyway, in retrospect. Alright, that all being said, we do manage to stack wipe them anyway. Now we're just going to split this force up, just unsiege everything. Thankfully, we don't have any forts, so it'll be a pretty quick venture for us to actually do that. And yeah, ultimately the war is going decently well. Brazil is completely occupied and they are the war leader. North Africa is almost completely occupied as well, which is deeply unfortunate. Although really not all that much so. And hopefully we'll be able to just take over a few of the islands, just the areas that we want to actually get in this war. Ultimately, for the scale of the war, it hasn't actually been all that detrimental. Quite frankly, the only fights that we have fought have been pretty one-sided, since we've had the ability to just pull our troops to places they can win and away from places where they will not. We go and smash that British army just because there's no real reason to give the British any more war score, since their war's going decent since we haven't fought their navy yet. And yeah, ultimately we'll probably go ahead and send these troops over to take Hawaii and the Aleutian Islands. Maybe if we're lucky we do manage to intercept one of these navies. I don't think we're actually going to have any luck destroying them. We are going to land on Brunei proper, because if we are just sniping the potential war goals that we want, I do want to knock Brunei out of Borneo. And right, so besides all that, unfortunately it looks like they do have the occasional ship near these islands that we were hoping to just snipe, so we do have to fight naval battles. We do have all these trade ships though, but we're a little too late, so we lose the battle, but maintain our ship. So that's going to be a little tedious, since we'll just have to do that again. And I wish that we could demand provinces that we don't control, although I understand why that is an impossibility. Alright, more rebels in North Africa, not really our problem. Hopefully the Ottomans will take care of it for us. Our ships were kicked out because Kong just left the war, which is understandable, a bit upsetting. We didn't lose any ships though, which is the most important thing. And we go ahead and just reship our armies to those islands we want. And just generally take a look at the situation around the world. We can probably go ahead and demand a few key provinces from Brazil, although that does take quite a bit of war score, and already they're not willing to do that. So we are nowhere near the end of this war, but thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We will be back tomorrow, hopefully with the conclusion, but potentially just with more fighting. Have a great day.